Welcome to the webinar. I'm Krista Campbell. Before we get started, I would like to encourage you to ask questions. You can post your questions in the questions dialog box at any time during the webinar. We will have time at the end of the webinar for Q&A. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted in the water utilities space on GeoNet, as well as the ESRI Water Meetup group. You will receive a follow-up email that includes links to both of these locations. It takes a few days for us to process it on our end, so the recording will probably be available towards the end of next week. Thank you for joining us for improving efficiency of water shutdowns using out-of-the-box capabilities to improve workflow. In today's webinar, we will share ESRI Solutions for water shutdowns and discuss how Sammamish Plateau Water manages more than 30 planned water shutdowns a year. Using ESRI out-of-the-box capabilities, they have been able to implement a trace tool, deploy solutions, and configure and launch applications that have increased collaboration between multiple departments, including engineering, operations, field services, and customer service. I'm going to take a few minutes to discuss ESRI Solutions for managing water outages, and then Sammamish Plateau Water will share their story. Last year, the Utah State University's Buried Structures Laboratory published a study focused on water main breaks. You can see on the slide that main breaks have increased quite a bit in the past 6 years, 27%. This wasn't surprising to us at ESRI. We work with many utilities and we've been hearing similar reports. Main breaks are increasing. As we all know, our mains are also aging, and this report shows that 28% of water mains are over 50 years old. The study also speaks about improving efficiency with GIS, and of course, we're not surprised by this either. Over the last several years, we have been working to provide you with solutions that support your need to manage outages, planned or unplanned. Access to information is the key to managing more efficiently. Our solutions take advantage of this. We use WebGIS to share information using maps and apps. Let's talk about solutions. Many of you are probably familiar with our pre-configured out-of-the-box solutions. These solutions are free to ESRI customers. They are the do-it-yourself option. They include strong documentation and are supported, which means you can call tech support and get help. Brett and Kyle are going to show you some of this today. If you haven't been to our solutions page in a while, you may want to take a look. We have some new solutions listed. We have updates. Solutions.arcgis.com/water will get you there. We also have a solutions deployment tool that's part of ArcGIS Pro. So if you're using Pro, look for that tool. It's going to make it easier for you to deploy these solutions. If you're not using Pro, you might want to take a look at that. We also have the option to pay ESRI to set up a water outage solution for you. You would work with ESRI directly, and my colleagues in professional services would do the work to get you up and running. This is a good option for those of you that may not have resources to dedicate to do it yourself and get things deployed and set up. All right, the fun part. I have a polling question for everyone. If you would just take a moment to answer the poll. How are you managing water shutdowns? Paper processes, communication via phone, GIS solutions, custom solutions, or other? I appreciate you guys answering the question. Looks like we still have a few that haven't answered. How are you managing water shutdowns? Paper processes, communication via phone, GIS solutions, custom solutions, or other? All right, you guys, just a few more seconds. Let's get those answers in. So far, it looks like most of you are using paper processes, but right behind that, we have communication via phone and GIS solutions, pretty even. Thanks everyone for answering the poll. Go ahead and close that out. All right, joining the webinar from Sammamish Plateau Water are Brett Angel and Kyle Wong. Brett has spent the last 11 years working at Sammamish Plateau Water as a GIS developer and database administrator. He is responsible for managing GIS at the district. Kyle is the engineering manager. He holds a bachelor's degree from Seattle University and has more than 20 years of experience in the water industry. Brett and Kyle, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and pass over to you.
Thank you, Krista. My name is Brett Angel.
And I'm Kyle Long.
Today we'll be discussing ESRI Solutions for planned shutdowns and how we utilized those solutions to solve some issues we had with a current workflow.
All right. So here at the district, we like to start off with our mission statement. Our mission statement is something that we have integrated into our workflows, something that we live, we believe in, and made it part of our culture. So our mission statement is that Sammamish Plateau Water will provide safe, efficient, and reliable water and sewer services by being a leader in the planning and the practice of fiscal and environmental stewardship. So just a brief description of Sammamish Plateau Water. We are located in the state of Washington, just east of Seattle. We encompass approximately 29 square miles and serve portions of the city of Sammamish, the city of Issaquah, and unincorporated King County. We serve a population of 64,000. We have approximately 19,000 water connections, 13,000 sewer connections, and the replacement value of all of our assets is $1 billion. So let's get to the heart of the matter, and I'd like to describe to you all our old process. And I think, Krista had that poll up talking about, how do you do your shutdowns or planned shutdowns, and we did it just like the majority through a paper process. And I'm going to describe to you our process here. We as project managers in engineering start off with creating a paper map and using a Word document form to provide all the necessary information with regards to the planned shutdown. So we take our GIS map, we take snippets of it, put it into the Word document form, and add all the necessary information with regards to the shutdown. We then deliver these maps to the necessary departments that will be either affected or be helping out with the shutdown. They get it at least 2 or 3 days before the meeting. We call a shutdown meeting with these individuals. And so we have people being represented from operations, from customer service, field service, engineering, and inspection in these meetings, in which we talk about the logistics of the meeting, the date, the time, the area, and so forth. But in these meetings, we talk about all the logistics, but after the meeting, each department has to go or goes away with, assignments or homework that they have to do. For instance, customer service, because these maps don't show all the information with regards to customers, customer service would have to go out or go back and research, the address of the customers, and to verify their account numbers, where and field services would have to go out and verify location of the meters, and then operations would have to go and do research with regards to the assets that are being affected, looking up the unique ID number for that asset, so they can then create work orders to be done to that asset. So that's that confirmation and information phase. Once they have done their homework or completed their assignments, then they would come back to us in engineering as the project managers and give us the updated information. And at this point, if it's significant enough, then definitely we would revise the map due to which customers have changed or valves being affected, hydrants, and so forth. But we would also maybe call another meeting to discuss any particulars that we weren't aware of at the first meeting. So we in engineering would be tasked to make sure that all these paper maps got out to the necessary departments and to the necessary people that are affected. And then we would go to the shutdown construction. Hopefully everybody has the most up-to-date revised map and information. So that's where we were looking at how can we make the process more efficient. And so the drivers of change here, we wanted to eliminate or try to shorten up this lengthy process, eliminate the miscommunication with regards to maybe the misinformation coming from different departments, and then eliminate the hard copy maps, and then really get all of our stakeholders involved and having that cross-departmental communication. So we looked at the solution. With regards to stakeholders, like I said, in our shutdown meeting, we have all these different departments represented, engineering, and which had also inspections, operations, field service, customer service. But looking at the bigger picture, the other stakeholders that are being affected are definitely our water customers, and then the fire services, because eventually certain shutdowns will turn off fire hydrants, which will impact how and if they would need to use those fire hydrants.
From a GIS perspective, it was really important to identify these stakeholders very early on in the discussions, because this is where the true value is going to come. Are we addressing specific needs of the stakeholders? Are they going to use it? And can we customize those solutions to make sure we're getting what they need?
And then, with these stakeholders, the other main emphasis for us was to make sure that communication and that information was being easily disseminated to them, as well as being easily accessible to them. So here, this is just a example of our Word document form. We have the particulars on the left-hand side that talks about date, time, what type of shutdown it is, who's responsible for what. And then the other two insets are the copies of the web map that we then, take snippets of, put it in the Word document, and then add all these different labels to the picture with regards to customers, what assets are being affected, where the construction is going to be done, and it doesn't have all the necessary pertinent information, like I talked about, addresses, customers' names, asset IDs, and so forth.
And seeing that the engineering group printed out our web maps really, really led me to believe there's some change here. There's definitely opportunity for some change and create some efficiencies.
And then talking about the assignments or homework that each department had to do, this is something that customer service and field services would use. We do hang door hangers with regards to our customers to alert them of when the shutdown will occur, date and time, and then who to contact. On the right-hand side, customer service would also have to do the research on the customer information. So they would go into their customer service database, gather all this information so they can then use this to put onto these door hangers, as well as use that spreadsheet to share with other office personnel when the shutdown would occur if they got calls from these customers.
So I'm going to talk about the solutions, but I want to quickly go over how we use GIS here at the district. We currently upgraded to ArcGIS Enterprise 10.7, actually a couple days ago, and we utilize a ArcGIS Online portal for ArcGIS hybrid approach to utilizing GIS web services. The reason for this is we keep all of our public-facing applications and data on ArcGIS Online, and we use portal for ArcGIS for all our internal applications. This eliminates the need for IT to open up ports, manage security, and it also eliminates our employees accidentally publishing something to the public, whether it be sensitive information or whatever. And it just it creates a nice wall in between our internal and external data that we use. So specifically jumping into the solutions and how we kind of got to where we are right now at this presentation, I'd say probably about 5 years ago internally, we implemented a trace tool using Silverlight, if anyone remembers that archaic application. And it worked, but we didn't have a champion, we didn't have a project, and there weren't any drivers identified, so it just sat and it kind of died out. And then a couple of years later, we started talking to ESRI, and we decided it would be advantageous to sign up for their Enterprise Advantage program. And what that did was gave us a jump start into the enterprise arena, if you will. So we started off on 10.6, and we brought in ESRI Professional Services. They helped set up the system. They helped us identify specific projects for the future. And one of those projects was utilizing a trace tool in the field. We had staff talking about what if there's a shutdown, being able to identify the valves they needed to shut off. And at the time, that was really all that we kind of had identified, what we wanted to use it for. So with the help of ESRI, they had a document that kind of gave us a little jump start, if you will, into the utility isolation trace tool. And then we went out to the Solutions Water page and we downloaded the solution. We followed the Get Started guide, the steps, and we implemented the utility isolation trace. We used the Web App Builder and the Web App Builder for ArcGIS Online to configure the widget and deploy the application. And then we also used the deployment tool for ArcGIS Pro to deploy the Outage Viewer. It was a good way for me as a GIS professional who's been using ArcMap for years to start working in ArcGIS Pro, just a side note. We deployed it. It was a great tool. I started demoing it, but again, we didn't have a champion for the project. So it sat for a couple months. So I just, I started just randomly showing people, and then Kyle saw a demo and he stopped by my desk and he said, hey, could we utilize this in engineering? And it was something that never occurred to me before. I was really focused on unplanned shutdowns and working with operations, and they wanted to use it, but trying to pin down a specific workflow and determine how we were going to use it, we didn't have that. So that was kind of the story of how we got to here, and just that deploying it is great and it works, but finding that champion, finding that solution to use it for, and make sure it follows through. And just another side note here, this is the web page for ArcGIS Solutions for Water, and if you haven't gone there, go there and check it out. Regardless of your role in your organization, whether you're not even in the GIS department, maybe you're a manager, a supervisor, I don't know, maybe you're a tech, it's a great place to go to get ideas to move forward. I forwarded this on to the entire office, which at first I thought might have been a huge mistake, but then that's how the ideas got rolling. So I encourage everyone to go check out this website.
And that was key. So like Brett said, we had the tool, but nobody was using it. And when he forwarded this on, it kind of caught my eye, and then it started in my mind thinking of, hey, can we use it to help us within our processes? And, sat down with Brett, we kind of brainstormed, and he said, yeah, that can definitely be done for the planned shutdown process that we have. So that's how it came about.
So now on to the good stuff here. Let's talk about the actual solutions we came up with. Just real quick before we jump into them, to address the specific groups of stakeholders, we came up with the water valve isolation trace application and the editor. Originally, it was 2 applications. We combined those, and then we have an internal outage viewer, public outage viewer, and a hydrant outage viewer. What we're going to do now is we're going to discuss those, and Kyle's going to discuss it from his perspective. I'm going to discuss it from a GIS perspective. Then we're going to give a quick demo of each one of these applications, how we use them.
So with the valve isolation trace and editor tool, you know, I saw it as something that, you know, can help us be more efficient and eliminate those paper maps and eliminate the need for revised maps or multiple maps and also multiple meetings trying to get all that information together. So now we use the tool in our shutdown meeting. Everybody's in there, all the different stakeholders are in there internally to discuss, excuse me, to discuss what is actually going to happen during the shutdown and where it's going to occur. And with this tool, it'll identify, you know, what assets are being affected. It also identifies the customers that are going to be out. And it also is, you know, the visual is all there, and it doesn't have to be modified by me in engineering or, you know, the field on paper maps. It's all on our trace tool here. And like Brett said, everybody now has access to edit it. So if and when after the meeting, if something changed or if they found during their confirmation phase that, you know, a valve wasn't working or there was a, you know, another meter installed, they can edit this within this tool. And so this helped with, you know, all with our meetings with, you know, getting all the information as accurate as possible.
And as far as ESRI Solutions go, this is really a simple process, to be honest. It was something that I was able to implement, and I think it took a total of 2 days at most, and that was mostly me just getting comfortable with it. We, like I mentioned before, we went to the Solutions for Water webpage, we downloaded it, and I used the Get Started guide, just following the step-by-steps process in there to implement the trace tool and the widget. And then I used the web app builder to configure the widget. And prior to this process, I'd never done that. And again, just following the online guides. The specific components that are needed for this solution are the geometric network. And because we had already implemented the local government information model from ESRI, we already had that. And then the outage layers and the widget that came with the downloads from the website, and then the web application. And it really is just those components. We added some other layers of functionalities to the map, which we'll look at now, but it really is that simple to just kind of get started. So right now we're going to jump out and take a look at the map, and we have it locked down because we don't want just anyone logging into our map and creating shutdowns here. Give me just a second here, my top secret password. Live demos are always fun.
Yeah. No, so with this tool, as Brett is logging in, it eliminates the need, like I said, for the further research, because as you'll see, all the information will be provided through this tool.
All right, here we go. So we're looking at the map here. We got a specific area. We already have a shutdown identified here. Let's say for whatever reason we're not happy with this particular shutdown. We just want to redo it. We want to redo. So we can just come in here and just delete it. This functionality is available to anyone who has access to this map. Right now, it's just the engineers. But eventually, as we become comfortable as an organization with this, we'll extend that capability. So we want to redo this particular area. We'll come in, we'll set a flag here, and we'll run the trace tool. This is out of the box. I did some configuration. You may notice in other demos, you'll have a barrier here or something like that. You know, engineers are picky folks, so they wanted that removed. So I went into the background and removed that. As you can see here, that was fairly quick. We identified the specific valves, the hydrants, mains, and then just an area that needs to be shut down. We can, if you haven't seen this before, we can identify the specific meters that are down and the specific valves that are down. And as Kyle mentioned in that initial meeting, now everyone in the room, you're all looking at the same data set. You're not required to come in and discuss, are these the right amount of meters? What are we doing here? It's all done in front of everyone.
And like Brett had shown, when he clicked on those assets, they came up with their asset ID numbers. So now, for like the mains being worked on or the valves being operated, operations can now, create the work order through those asset IDs.
One of the other requests we had was the ability to, we would have to export this information, utilize it in other ways. We can export the meter information. And what we did here at the district was we, as you can see here, it just very quickly exports a list. We have the asset IDs, we integrated the account numbers and other pertinent GIS information. But I think the real value in this is we also integrated our customer service information system. So the customer service walks away with a list of customers affected with this. So if you think back to that original paperwork where they had to compile a list of customers' names, addresses, and so forth, it's already compiled for them. They walk away with everything they need as well as other information. Maybe they have a different mailing address, applications, things like that. But then, like I said, we're creating a single source of information. So what we're going to do here is come in and save this information to our GIS system. I made some minor changes here. We automated this to say planned, shutdown, leak type causes other, the date, and so forth. But what we're doing here is we're just going to set the date and time that we're going to have an outage.
So as you can see, this overview is some of the information that we had on our Word document form. And I think we are still working on trying to add more information to it. But for now, it gives us the general information for the planned shutdown.
So as you can see in this process right here, let's, put us in the place of that meeting. We're all in a meeting. We've looked at the map. We know based on our GIS, we've identified the valves, meters, and mains, laterals that we're going to shut down. We're able to export information out. People can take information with them. And we've saved that information to a single source GIS set of layers that we can use later on in some other applications that we're going to get into.
So like Brett said, the single source is a key. So we have this, Outage Viewer internal application. And this is that single source map that everyone within the district has access to. So be it operations, be it customer service or field service, or even in engineering, this map will show, or is accessible, and will show where the shutdown is going to occur, as well as who's all affected, be it customers, what's all affected, be it the assets, from valves, hydrants, and meters. And this eliminates the revised maps, eliminates the paper maps that people would have to sure they had with them, or that they had given to the right field personnel. This is now accessible to all, be it in the office or even out in the field.
From a GIS Solutions perspective, this is an extremely simple map. It's really just a copy of the original application you just saw. We just removed the editing capabilities. It took probably 5 minutes to create. We just utilized the web builder for ArcGIS Online, added the same layers. Now we have a application view-only application available for our staff, both from a desktop and a mobile device. So let's say we're answering phones and John Smith calls in and he's asking about a potential outage at his house. So they're able to search his address. It'll take them into that specific area. They'll be able to click on the map and get that information. So I have specific information about the assets themselves, as well as the outage start time, number of customers planned, so forth. All this information available, again, both through desktop and mobile.
And so that was for our internal stakeholders, right? All the different departments that are that may have touches to the planned shutdown. Now for the public, Brett created the Outage Viewer public application, and this now will show, you know, remember we had the door hangers that we hang on the doors for those customers that are being affected. So now when the shutdown occurs, or if they did not get a door hanger and now they're trying to either take a shower, wash their dishes, and no water is coming out, they can log on and go to this viewer and see whether or not, you know, they are part of the shutdown, or maybe, you know, how big the shutdown is, how long. There will be information on there, how long the shutdown will last, as well as information on who to contact with regards to this shutdown. So this is for our customers, you know, to see when a shutdown is occurring.
For solutions, we use the ArcGIS Pro deployment tool to initially deploy the water outage application. We did some slight modifications, but this is really going back to the single source GIS, accessing the original outage area that was developed in the shutdown meeting, and it's just a web application. Some minor differences is it's a time-enabled viewer, which means that we're only going to see everything from present day till 7 days from now. So if a customer logs into here after getting the door hanger, they're able to say, you know, when was that shutdown going to be? So let's say John Smith has a poor memory. He's a forgetful kind of guy. So he logs into our website here. Oh. He's thinking, you know, I'm going to come in here and figure out when was that specific outage? When is it affecting me? He wants to know. He wants to brew some beer or something. So he's able to log onto the website here, click this, and get a dynamic pop-up that we have configured that's accessing the information we created in that original meeting, letting him know, oh, it'll be down from 9 to 3 o'clock today. Okay, who should I call? Who would I email? And again, you know, if you're familiar with this, you can configure this to do what you want. But it's a nice, effective way to address the public and get that information out there.
And as you can see on the map, it just shows the area that's being affected, right? So, you know, they're not seeing the mains or the hydrants. They don't need that information. I think they're just interested in who's all being affected, how big is this outage, and, you know, the date, time, and when will the water be back on. So whenever you have a shutdown, inevitably it'll affect fire hydrants. And another application that was created was the Hydrant Outage Viewer. And this will show what hydrants will be out, and what we plan on doing is sharing this with the fire districts, so they know where the hydrants are that are being affected, as well as, you know, the dates and times that these hydrants will be out of service.
Again, we utilized Web App Builder for ArcGIS Online. We included the hydrant outage layer and hydrants from our geometric network and created a web application. Again, it's just a really simple, time-enabled viewer that allows the end user to access some specific information. We're going to take a quick look in here. Give a very quick demo to show. So John Smith decided he was going to barbecue instead. He went out, he fell asleep, started a fire. So now the fire services, they can very quickly look and say, we have a hydrant out of service here. So now when they go out there, they're prepared. They're prepared for whatever they need to do their job, and we're also keeping them informed as well.
And then with this, this application, it kind of spurred on other ideas of how the fire department can provide us, the district, with important information with regards to, fire hydrant use and flow. So I think we're looking at trying to create a tool or application that they can use to provide us with, what fire hydrant was used to fight a fire, the flow that they use, and if there were any problems with that fire hydrant during operations.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Kyle. Getting them involved, these assets are important not only to them, the community as well, but utilizing this platform, this accessibility to this information to have them, I don't want to say doing work for us, but providing us the information we need to help them do their job. If we think back to that original process that Kyle discussed that we had, immediately we can see that we eliminated some steps in this process. We've eliminated 2 steps. We've, cut down the time the entire process takes, right? But what does this all look like? What does it look like when we put it together, right? So starting with the water valve isolation application at the shutdown meeting, we're able to create a single source of information stored in GIS. We're exporting tables. So now we're eliminating miscommunication, right? Everyone's going to be looking at the same data source from here on out through the entire project. With that information exported, customer service will have the tables they need, operations will have information they need. They're able to come in and edit that information during the confirmation and validation phase. They can also use the internal outage viewer to gain an operational awareness, whether out in the field or internally. They can be used by managers and supervisors to plan their schedules, workflows, as well as customer service. And this whole process eliminates unnecessary hard copies. We're not printing out those maps anymore. As we move on in the shutdown and construction phase, here we're making sure that we've addressed all of our stakeholders. We talked earlier about the value in this. What are we going to do with this information? Well, we're getting that information out to the public and the fire services. These are the people that are going to be affected by these outages. So we're still going to do door hangers, but we've created a couple extra steps to keep them involved, to keep them informed, and now again we've covered all of our stakeholders, both internal and external.
And that's key too, in that we're giving them the most accurate information and most up-to-date information at the time. So real quick on benefits, Brett kind of showed how we cut down on the process, so that that created efficiency within our process. We have less meetings. We don't have to do a revisit to those meetings. Another important thing with being efficient is having that cross-department communication. So now everybody at these meetings are seeing the same thing, right? We all have that same information. It's all coming from that one data source, so that information is as accurate as possible. Everybody will have that information at their fingertips. Like we said, customer service now has the meter information, the customer information. Operations now has the asset ID information and what assets are being affected, as well as the internal office staff has that one map that they can go to see what is actually going on or what is actually being affected. This also helped us with time saving. Less time being spent on the research, more time being spent on improving the process. We eliminated the need for paper maps and paper revisions. Now it's all on the valve isolation trace tool and editor that people in the field or in the office can make those changes, and then that will then update our map viewer. And so once again, we have that one map. There are no different maps floating out there. There are no hiding of information. So all that information is right there. And lastly, standardizing our documentation. That all boils down to that one map, that one source of data.
There's, of course, there's always improvements that can be made. With our recent upgrade to ArcGIS Enterprise 10.7, we're looking at implementing the new ESRI Water solution. We've actually already downloaded it. I've gone through the guide, and I got as far as I could through the steps. We needed to wait till the 10.7, but I'm excited to get that in. That addresses some issues that we're looking at with, working with valves, turning valves off, sources, things like that. And then we also, the water group, they've seen this presentation before, they've seen this solution. We're also looking to utilize the new water solution for unplanned shutdowns as well. That's pretty exciting, and that's hopefully going to be a little bit easier. If you go to the webpage, the Water Solutions webpage, which I encourage you to do, they've got a really good workflow already put out there for us. We've already kind of worked through, talked with them, and set up. We're also looking to extend the GeoEvent server. Currently, we are using it for notifications and updates. It's not maybe what it's specifically set up for. It's not that real-time big data type stuff, but as a single GIS person working on this solution, it allows me to extend my reach, if you will, and automate a lot of processes that I would have to do manually. And the other big one is, Kyle alluded to earlier, is integrating some of the engineering forms into the workflow. We capture the shutdown information related to the assets in this process, but there's other information that we need to capture both from inspectors and engineers that we'd like to relate to this as well.
And then, again, from the engineering standpoint, we can use this tool, or have been just lately using this tool, not just for the planned shutdown, but to use it to help us look at capital plans and kind of our design of certain projects. We can use it to say, hey, if we're going to be tying into this main, how many people are we going to maybe affect? Other improvements to processes is with regards to on the customer service side. Like I said, we do these door hangers, and those are manually written out, or so now we're thinking of maybe integrating, trying to figure out how we can use that information that we download from the tool and maybe do some type of mail merge, where then these door hangers can be automatically populated.
I'd like to end by thanking the Sammamish Plateau Water staff, because really as a single GIS professional, what you're seeing here really encompasses everyone here putting in hard work and time. And then also ESRI, because without their solutions page, none of this gets done. And as we started with our mission statement, I like to end with it as well, because it really is what drives us here and what we focus on. And again, it allows us to do our work. It's more than just a statement. It's our culture. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Brett and Kyle. Great job. All right, we're going to go to questions. Before I get started with our questions, I want to point out that we do have a handout in the GoToWebinar control panel. This is an article that I worked on with Brett and Kyle that summarizes a lot of what you saw today in the webinar presentation. So if you're interested in getting that, you can download the PDF here from GoToWebinar. And let's get to the questions. We have quite a few of them. To kick off our questions section, there were several attendees that wanted to know a little more about how you connect to your customer service information, the CIS system to the GIS, and how do you ensure that all of the customers have been identified? Is there a timing to that? Is it a live connection? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So on the background, we have a linked server through SQL Server, and we've connected to the CIS, and just through digging around in there, I was able to identify the specific tables I needed, and then we use the account numbers to join to the meters. We currently have a tech that's working on going through and QA/QCing those meters right now. When she started, we had, I think, 18,500 or so. We might be up to 19,000 meters. But what she's gone to do is gone through each and every single one of those, double checked it against our CIS and the account number, and ensured that we've gone in and got that connection, or that link, if you will, available. Right now, she's actually going out in the field and identifying the ones she couldn't do either through as-built, internal knowledge, or things like that. And then in the future, we're working on a process to identify new meters coming in.
Great, thanks, Brett. We had another question, a couple of them around how you configured the solutions. I know you mentioned ArcGIS Pro and the solution deployment tool. Can you clarify a little bit? Like, did you actually work in Pro to do configuration? Did you work in ArcGIS Online? What tool did you use to do the configurations, and in what way?
Yeah, actually, I only used Pro. This was my first introduction to Pro. I just used Pro for the deployment tool. So you just download I forget if they call it an add-in or what, to be honest, but you download that. It has a solutions button. You click the solutions button, and it automatically downloads a solution for you. From there, in ArcGIS Online, you have all this information, and that's how I got most, like, the outage layers and then some of the applications. The actual widget itself, you use the web app builder for ArcGIS. That's a local development tool you download, and that's just in a folder. You run the executable, and that'll bring up a development page, and that has the widget in there, and from there you can configure that widget. But and looking forward, all that said, one of the reasons I'm looking forward to the new water solution tool is the widget's already configured and set up in there. We don't have to go in and use that custom web app builder.
Great, thanks. We have some questions around your field crews and how they're using it, or if they're using it. So can you talk a little bit about how the field crews use it and who has access to it in relation to the office staff as well? I know you mentioned this a little bit, but if you could clarify that and maybe talk about the devices that the field crews use if they're accessing this information.
So right now, currently anyone who has access or works for us has access to our portal, has access to the Outage Viewer itself. So that's available to anyone. As far as the tool for shutdowns right now, that's just engineers. As we move forward with the unplanned shutdowns, we're going to work with the specific water and sewer operations teams to identify who they will utilize within their groups to run the tool and validate the information. My guess it's going to be on calls for supervisors and a manager as well.
But everybody has access to the viewer, and that viewer, has all the information with regards to the shutdown, with regards to the assets, and with regards to the customers. So that internal viewer, if anybody had questions on or needed to, change or needed something revised, then we in engineering right now can go ahead into the editor tool and revise what needs to be done, and then it would automatically show up in the viewer. Like Brett said, I think our end goal would be to provide the editor tool to operations, especially to those folks that will be out in the field, doing that confirmation of the assets out in the field. And I don't know if Brett touched on it as well. Field crew, they have access to it out in the field, either on their phone or on their tablets that they utilize out in the field.
Yeah. And again, I feel like I'm trying to sell ESRI products here. I'm not. But the new water solution tool has a validation process. So I think that will allow us to possibly open up the trace tool for both planned and unplanned shutdowns as well, so people can just go out and utilize that. And and then use that validation process of whether or not we're going to push that out to the public or whatever. So that's a nice upgrade.
Sounds like you're excited about that.
I am.
I love having you guys on. You've been excited about a lot of things. It's nice to see. I want to give a shout out to Scott. He has a very specific question, so I'm just going to read it to you. Where they are in the process of implementing a valve isolation tool, and they want to know if you just use the buffer to create a shutdown area, or do you also use the convex hull option?
No, we just use the buffer.
Thanks. Thanks, Scott, for the question. We have several questions that are coming in that are more specific to if a valve is inoperable and you have to extend the outage area, how does that work? And then leading back to the customers being notified. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so in the current application that we showed you and demoed, you would just add another flag. So that's why it's locked down right now. You do have to have some operational awareness of the water system itself. To be honest, as a GIS professional, I probably wouldn't be the person to be running that tool. But say you run that tool and it's going to show you the two valves that are isolated, but you know there's a dead end that you need to shut off. You just add another flag. And then as far as the customers,
what was the question with regards to the customers? If we had to add that extra flag or extend the area, how do we notify the customers?
Right. How do you know? Yeah. How do you know that you're getting all of the customers?
Oh. Well, that's part of the process as well. Because when we first started testing this, Kyle would run through and he's like, hey, maybe a meter's not connected in our geometric network, or a meter's missing. So I think there's two parts to that QA/QC process. Is one, it starts with our tech going through our individual meters as well, using that to compare to our CIS system, but then also having Kyle aware that if he comes across something that's not connected, I've given him a 24-hour turnaround time to go in and correct GIS information. So it actually helps, create a more accurate GIS system for us as well.
And in addition, that's why we have all different departments represented in our shutdown meetings, because, you have that institutional knowledge that some people may know that, that meter or that service is coming off of a different main and that we didn't know of, and that customer would be affected. But once again, this tool does not eliminate the need for, the confirmation with regards to the meters out there in the field or the assets being touched out in the field. So like you were saying, if, we have a valve identified as to be shut down, our field crew does go out prior to the shutdown to make sure that one, the valves are accessible, and two, that they're operational. And like you said, if they find that it's not operational or if it's broke, then yes, then we go back, use the editor to expand the shutdown area and, look at, who else is all affected.
Thanks, guys. I have a couple questions about the fire services. You had mentioned the viewer app for the fire department. Is this something, as far as, you might not be able to answer this question, but as far as their workflow goes, do you know how they're planning to use it? And would they also be accessing the information in real time using tablets in their fire trucks? Or do you have any insight into that yet? I know you're just starting with them.
No, we don't. That's the next step for us, is setting up meetings with them and seeing specifically what do they want to see, how are they going to use it. Of course, as a GIS professional, I create a map, it shows the data, but how are they going to use it? We don't know yet. And trying to get them, set up the meetings and talk with them, really that is the next step in that process.
Yeah, and we kind of approached them just through casual conversations with regards to this, and I know that they've spoken that they have their phones or their tablets that they can access maps or look at maps on. So like Brett said, we're still in that process of trying to set down formal meetings to figure out what they actually need from us.
Yeah.
Right. And that's usually what I have experienced as well. Before coming to ESRI, I did a similar workflow and involved the fire department, and that was how they wanted to use it. They wanted to implement tablets, which they had not been using at the time. So it was definitely something new for both of us.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
currently for a map for them, and that's it. Yeah, that's it. So anything's an improvement.
Yeah. All right, we have a few minutes left, so I'm going to go to the biggest question. We've gotten a lot of questions about using this type of functionality and all of the solutions that you've showed in conjunction with the utility network and or ArcGIS 10.7. I know there are a lot of changes coming. Brett, you've mentioned 10.7 and some changes you're looking forward to. I have Jason Shannon on the line. He's one of our solution engineers that has been involved with the utility network a little bit. So I'm going to open this up to all three of you to maybe just discuss. I know Kyle and Brett, you guys are using the geometric network right now. What does
Yeah.
it look like going to the utility network? Jason, if you can chime in, and Brett, if you have any comments about that, if you guys have even thought about that yet.
Yeah, just real quick, like I believe I mentioned before, we upgraded to 10.7 just a couple days ago, and with the current solution, there was no going from 10.6 to 10.7. There were no issues whatsoever. As far as upgrading to the utility network, we've got a lot of things going on right now, and it is a big migration. So we're working with ESRI Professional Services. We're spending this year looking at it. What does it take? What's the effort? And what are the changes involved? So that's our perspective right now on that.
So yes, very good question. Does this all work with utility network? So a couple things. One, with 10.7 and the new water outage solution, it does require 10.7, right? The new outage solution. As far as utility network, there is some tracing capability available in the utility network now to do isolation traces, again at 10.7, and I think you need Pro 2.3, and that's only in ArcGIS Pro. So the web version of the isolation trace tool that we just saw in the webinar is not available yet via the utility network.
Thanks, Jason. Holy cow, we still have questions coming in. I know we just have a minute left, so I do want to let everyone know who's asking that we are recording this webinar. It will be available to watch in its entirety, probably about a week. It's going to be posted in a couple places online. You will get an email following the webinar that's going to give you links to both locations where you can access it. Like I said, it takes about a week, and then you'll be able to view it, share it, check it out. I hope you guys join us next month for our June 27th webinar with Fort Worth. They're going to talk about how they're working to remove all lead pipes by 2021. Thank you, Brett and Kyle. I really appreciate it. Great job today. Jason, thanks for joining. And I hope to see everyone next month on our water meetup. Have a great day.